Hey guys, so this is going to be a short video on this surfboard here. This is the first surfboard that I ever made back about, I don't know, 12 or 14, I think maybe 14 years ago. I rode this board a lot. This board has gotten a lot of riding, especially the first few years. And I just wanted to go over what I did and how the mistakes I made and how I still came out with a great board, and I just rode it and had a lot of fun with it. So for those of you guys starting out trying to figure out how to make a surfboard, and you've probably checked out my video series on how to build your own surfboard, this is just kind of show you where I started. So up here is my current quiver, and I have another board outside as well, but I got like an egg type board there. The blue one there is my single fin that I did the video series for, and that top orange one is kind of a real long board type of shape, really full, great for teaching people how to surf. Get a lot of good rides out of that. And then up there, up in the rafters, I got my boogie board, and then I have a short board up there as well, a little performance thruster, and I don't ride that one that much because the waves around here aren't the cleanest, but when I can break that out, it is really fun to ride. And what I'm going to do possibly is, when I get a chance, when I get some time, I might do a video about each one of these boards for those of you who are interested following me for surfboard building. So I'll post those up for those of you guys who might be interested in just how I designed them, why I wanted the specific shape, and the mistakes that of course I've made along the way. Alright, on to the actual talking about this surfboard. So this board is made out of XPS, and I just did a video on the difference between XPS and EPS, and all I had access to at the time was XPS, which is again this foam board, this blue or pink foam board. So you can see here, this is the blue stuff that I made, and here's the spot where I stopped riding this board because I rode into a reef on a big wave, and I had other boards, so I just kind of stopped riding it. But anyways, this is made out of this Dow blue board, and the way this was constructed, and this is before I knew too much about board building, because I just kind of winged this as I went, is I made a stringer, and then I cut out the thickness. I traced the stringer onto the foam board, and I cut out each one of these pieces, and I glued them all together, and then I made a blank that way. So you could imagine that this whole board is just individual pieces laminated together, and that's why you can kind of see that. That was before I thought about gluing two pieces of foam together and then laminating it directly to the stringer. Anyways, you know, that's where I was learning as I went. So, I just wanted to show that this board is made out of XPS, and indeed it is held up. It's held up great. I removed the wax off here. There's barely, I don't think there's any heel dents or anything on this. This board has seen a lot of wear and tear, and I have had to make a few repairs on it, but I understood kind of the limitations of this material as I was making it, and it came out pretty good. But there's a few spots where I want to show you where this material failed on me, minor fail, and I was able to just kind of fix it up, and then I learned for my future boards and what not to do. Because I have made a few other boards out of XPS, and I don't unfortunately have them anymore. I've since sold them, but they all held up very well. I haven't had any complaints or anyone come back and say that they had failures with the board. So back here I have a leash plug, and this is actually made out of a piece of PVC pipe, and I just put I peened in, see here, I peened in a piece of stainless steel welding rod, and that was my leash plug. So at the time I didn't have access to a lot of surf making supplies, I just kind of wanted to give it a go and see what happened. And the epoxy that's actually used on this board is actually West System epoxy, meant for boat building. And the fiberglass I purchased locally at a fiberglass place, which worked out to be a little bit too expensive. It was just way cheaper to buy it online. So anything boat related, for whatever reason, is always more expensive when you buy it from a boat shop. And I had used glass, I glassed on fins. So basically this board is completely made out of everything that I was able to get locally to me, instead of having to go order from a surf supply, which is a lot more common now and a lot more easily available than when I first started making boards. So I'm going to flip the board over and talk a little bit about the bottom. But as you can see, I've had no issues with the deck, except when I ran into, like I said, a rock, or the reef, the bottom of the reef, and this started delaminating. And again, it does delaminate, just like the way I mentioned in the other video. This XPS foam, the foam actually separates from itself, and that has something to do with the manufacturing process and the, I think, the gassing or the blowing agent that they use to blow the foam. Alright, so the bottom of the board. It's seen some wear and tear and a lot of scratches and stuff, so that's why it looks the way it does. I put a big rocker in this board because I was first learning how to surf at the time. Might be hard to show you. I can grab a straight edge maybe and do that later. So actually you can kind of see it here. It just really slopes right off. Okay, so this originally had glass on fins, and this looks a little rough because I retrofitted some future fins on it a few years after I built the board, and I didn't do a great job blending it in. It's kind of rough. I just wanted to see how it worked. After that, at that point, I had already so many other boards that I kind of gave up on this one. But I'm going to keep this board. I'm not going to sell this one or throw it out just because it's the first board I ever made. So it's got a little nostalgic to it. It was a thruster, but where it delaminated here, and this is what I wanted to talk about with this EPS foam. At the time when I built this board, I only put one layer of 6-ounce cloth on the bottom. I reinforced it on all my future boards, and I never had an issue of delaminating again. Now, here I did a repair and it's held up, and same with these future fin boxes. It's held up quite nice with this XPS foam, even with the retrofit. I surfed it a few times after that, and it never separated, and it's rock solid. Now, so that's a bit about where you're going to run into issues with this foam if you don't make sure to reinforce it with some extra glass near the tail section. Now, and technically you should do that with all boards, including EPS, or I guess polyurethane if that's what you're making your boards out of. But if you're watching this video, you're probably not doing that. You're probably making your boards out of epoxy and more readily available foams at your hardware store. I want to show how strong this epoxy is with this construction. Like, it really just doesn't, because this is an old board, I really don't care, but I can whack on it. It's nice and hard. Now, it is just my fist. If I took a hammer to it, of course, it's probably going to puncture. But this epoxy and foam construction is pretty dent resistant. If you were to do that to a poly board, it probably would dent, depending on how many layers of glass it has. Last thing I want to talk about was the tinting and the color. You notice you can't see the blue anymore, and this used to be blue, blue foam, but this is orange, and I tinted this using toll paint. This stuff here, actually. Stuff here that you can get at the craft store or Walmart. And all I did was I added to the epoxy, because West System epoxy that I used, which wasn't the clear epoxy, it was hard to get clear epoxy locally. So I decided to tint it, and I tinted it with this orange toll paint. I added a bunch to it, and then I tinted everything. I tinted the lamination, I tinted the hot coat, and I tinted the gloss coat. In hindsight, it probably wasn't the best thing to do, but it did seem to work out okay. and as you can see on this side where it didn't get as much scratches on the bottom, it came out okay, so not bad. So overall, this was my first board. The rails were kind of janky. I didn't really understand how to profile the rails, but this was the first board I ever made, and it rode great. I had a lot of fun with it, but I since retired it because I have so many other boards and my board making skills have vastly improved. But I just wanted to mention how well that the board has held up with XPS foam, and to this day I could probably just patch it up and I could still surf this board. So so this is just kind of more of an addendum to my foam making video, or I should say my foam comparison video. If you guys should be inclined to make an XPS board, you just got to keep a few little things in mind. Just glass it a little heavier and around at least the stress spots, and you shouldn't have any problems with delamination. So thanks for watching, and I'll try to post some more videos of my other surfboards up here in the coming weeks and months, whenever I get a chance to talk about them and film them.